Welcome to another episode of Amusing Minds. Today our guest Mike Hewitt is going to talk to us about hobbies and all the things that encompass the hobbies. So just for listeners as well as you guys, what are some of your hobbies? What do you do for fun? Larry? Ben?
Oh, okay. That's a question. Okay. I thought we were reading a script that I didn't have. I would say for fun right now, honestly, hobby-wise is doing like cosplay stuff, craft stuff, try to make props or, try to make props. Try to make cool things that you were like, holy crap, I can print this, boom, it's mine now, ha 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 ha, that kind of stuff. But that also gives to the mindset that you're in the frame of mind to actually do all the things you want to do, because what gives you love and happiness one day, you're like, no, I can't return to you for at least a couple days.
Whoa. Right on.
I assume that by hobby we mean something that we don't do as a business.
No. I mean, a hobby could be a business, and a business could be a hobby.
Okay, so I guess, all right, so it could still be a hobby if it's me doing it, but like being an employee of someone else, that's probably not my hobby.
Correct. Yeah, that's how I would look at it.
Okay.
If you're the person creating the idea or producing the thing for yourself or for others, then it's your hobby.
So
unless someone's paying you to do it.
I've done so many different things. When I was a kid or a teenager, I thought I wanted to be a filmmaker. I wanted to follow in Spielberg's footsteps. I watched every single behind the scenes thing I could get my hands on, on VHS, or when DVDs came out. That was a huge blessing, because then all of a sudden there was all this extra content you could get on DVD with all this behind the scenes stuff. And I did. I followed that dream for a little while as a hobby. Not as much anymore. I've tried designing board games, and I published 2 card games, and that was a lot of fun. I created costumes and characters and stories and role-playing games, or played in role-playing games to do character development and storytelling. And then when we started costuming at Comic-Cons, I got into trying to figure out what I could do to sell at Comic-Cons to help afford to go. And leather crafting ended up being the medium that I chose. And so I've been doing leather crafting for quite a long time now. And also stuff like this. The podcast is a hobby. Video games are a hobby. I love watching TV and movies. I love stories. If it has a story, that's my hobby. My hobby is stories, and anything that can give me a story, I'm gonna chase it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think I'm same boat. If it's got a story, and I can incorporate a story, or I can create a story or involve it, that's definitely gonna be right in my wheelhouse of hobbies. Or just creating with others, making things with others. Huge plethora: art, video games. Ben, you said it. Larry, you said it. Just all kinds of stuff. Literally look around the room, and anything there I could probably incorporate as one of my hobbies. But let's see what our guest has to say about it. Take a short break, bring on Mike, and let's see what he has to say about his hobbies. All right, guys, we're back from our break, and Mike's here to join us to talk about some of his great hobbies. How you doing?
Hey, doing great. Yes.
Awesome. So we were kind of talking about you and talking about all the hobbies that you have. All of us, we have different various hobbies, and we know for a fact that you have a million hobbies.
Yeah, that's what my wife says. So in my man cave, she calls it the place of broken dreams or forgotten hobbies, because like there's so many hobbies down here. Yeah, I've gone through everything. You name it, I've probably gone through it. So, but yeah.
Well, give us like a breakdown of like your top 5 hobbies that you got into that you're like try to stay consistent with.
Try to stay consistent with. My hobbies probably last about a year and a half, and then I'm done. I'm on to the next thing. The only things that really have stuck with me throughout the years is programming. I love oh my gosh, I can never get enough programming, which is very good because that's my job. So that helps a lot. But it all, I mean, most everyone's hobbies, well, not everyone's hobbies, but it all comes down to creating something, being creative. I mean, there are hobbies of collecting stuff. I guess that's not very creative. I don't know, which I've done that too. I've tried to collect all kinds of stuff as well. But, top 5 hobbies. Let's think. In my early 20s, I was into music a lot. So for a year and a half, I played the bass. For the year and a half, I played the drums. I played guitar. I played piano. All of that. Haven't done any of that in a while. But let's just go with this last year. Some of the new hobbies I've been doing is painting. I've been painting with oil paints and creating stuff like that. I've also created stuff, sculptures and things like that. Lately I've been loving puzzles, which is very weird and very 80-year-old senior of me to do. And collecting records, which I guess also says that I'm extremely old or extremely hip. I don't know. But we've been collecting records a lot. So that's the big thing. Got a really cool turntable. And yeah, so that's, yeah.
Cool. Okay. So
and wait. So you do all this stuff, but wait, what do you do for a living again?
I program program code. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I like how you made it so simple. It's programming.
It's programming.
Program code.
Like you when you program your VCR. I just program my VCR. Oh my gosh. For all those who don't know who a VCR is, just kidding.
There are people.
Oh, and my kids the other day were like, what's a DVR? And I'm like, well, back in the old days, a DVR would record stuff from the television. But yeah, so yeah.
Oh man. Sorry, I had to take a moment.
Record it. Why would you have to do that? It streams, Dad.
Right? I know.
Is the VCR tape have to be in there first or not?
Yeah. I don't know how old your kids are, but there's definitely a few of those questions I've seen on the internet, like ask your kid how to hold a phone, like pretend to hold a phone conversation.
Yeah.
Like just say, hey, pretend you're on the phone, and like all of our generation does the little hand thing with the thumb and the
right. Oh yeah.
But there's a whole generation of people who cup the side of their face.
Yeah.
Because it's a different thing. So.
I just said to my kid, like, it's on the screen now if you look. I said, how do you pick up the phone? And they're like, oh, there's a little rainbow thing. I'm like, no, that's a phone. See that? Yeah, that little red button? They thought it was a rainbow, not a phone on a receiver. So yeah.
Right on. Oh, yeah, that's a thing.
That's a thing. Yeah.
Oh, but anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand. We wanted to talk to you about your hobbies and stuff, and because we will trail. Something you said you did a lot of hobbies throughout the years, like you've been in and out of things. Why do you think that is? Like, what drives you to
extremely
jump
ADD.
in and out of hobby?
I'm extremely ADD. I'm extremely HD. Yeah, I have a hyper-focus mentality where I will consume something beyond measure and then I'm done. So one thing was, a couple years back, I made these, I guess one really big hobby I've loved throughout the years is Dungeons & Dragons and just role-playing games. Oh, yeah. I believe that is the end-all, be-all fun activity that never gets boring because it never gets old. So I made these little dungeon tiles. Well, first of all, I found I could pour plastic, and I'm like, oh, I could pour plastic in my, garage. So I started making these dungeon tiles, and I made them, and I took them to Planet and everything else. And my wife is a very long-term kind of being, so we're at there, and everyone's looking at it. They're like, oh, this is awesome, this is great. We sold enough to make, we didn't make any money because we spend everything we get there, but we just made enough to pay for the booth and everything else. And then the next year, I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And then now my hobby is just going in the garage and pouring the same thing over and over. This is no fun. This is no fun anymore. This is work. And that's when I'm like, I'm out of this hobby because now it's become work. So yeah, there's a lot of times where I've taken it as far as I can or, and other things just happen. So 2 years ago, before the 2020 pandemic, I was, and I'm still into it now. I do saltwater fish. So I've been doing saltwater fish. I just got into it, and dude, I got into it. And this was like early 2019. And, so I had a big tank. I had a 60-gallon tank. And then I just started buying tanks left and right. And we have this weird room in our basement. You guys have been there. I don't know if you've seen it. But it's like 6 feet by like 10 feet. So it's not a real room. It's more like a closet. And so what I just lined them, I made shelves and then put 30 tanks down there and started trying to breed fish left and right. And then, so there's another hobby. And, we got, little fish, and it was a lot of work. And then the pandemic hit, and I was doing a podcast about fish. I was doing a 6-month solid. Everything was going great. I've gotten lots of followers. It's going really great. And then I'm sitting here, and I'm like, man, I'm doing a lot of work. And I just clicked in my brain, like, I have the podcast. Halfway through it, I'm just like, guys, I think I'm done. And this is horrible. This sounds horrible. But I just stopped the podcast, stopped doing fish, sold some of the fish, took them all upstairs.
I think there's something there, though. Because
this is therapy, so please tell me what's wrong with me, please.
No. Well, I don't. So I am.
You're not gonna hurt my feelings,
therapist, but by any means. But no. The problem is, I think I suffer from a very similar thing. And I was more so going to ask a question. And I kind of want everybody's answer because I think all of us in here kind of fall under this to some level. Some of us probably higher or lower on the scale of creativity to, okay, I'm done. When I create projects, I find a lot of the time when I'm doing something new or a new project, the idea of the challenge of making the thing or doing the thing to a level of like excellence or to a level of I can do this is always kind of in the back of my mind. Like, I just want to challenge myself to see if I'm capable of doing it. But then once I've done it, I'm then done because I'm like, yeah, I did it. Is that the
very
same
much
thing
so.
for you?
Very much so. And a lot of times it's tied to money. I feel like I like my job and everything else. Like making dungeon tiles. If I can sell dungeon tiles, I know I'm not going to make enough money to do anything. But if I can sell them, that proves to myself I kind of hit that level of excellence. Does that make sense? If someone's willing to buy it, then boom. You know what I'm saying? Does that make any sense? This is therapy, right? You guys are all licensed. No.
So hold on.
Basically, a lot of my hobbies, the excellence, I like that excellence question because we want to do stuff good, right? We want to do it at the top level. And a lot of that is tied to money with me. I don't know if it's tied with anybody else. I'm not necessarily wanting to make a fortune or anything else, but if I can get somebody to buy my product, if I can make dungeon tiles and somebody likes it enough to spend money, that in my head kind of solidifies that, oh, I've done something good. Someone's willing to buy it. I've kind of hit, not that excellence, but I've hit sort of an excellence in my brain.
No, I think that's actually more of what I was even meaning when I say excellent. To me, it's more about proficiency. Like, if I can create something good enough that someone else will consume it, that means I've done it to the level at which I wanted to achieve my goal.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and
I wholeheartedly agree with you there. Man.
And if I paint something and hand it to somebody and they take it, I'm like, do they really like it? Or are they just taking this to make me feel better? And then they're trashing it. But to actually sell a painting, I'm like, oh, dang, I'm a little bit higher. Hit that level. Maybe I'm doing something right. And it makes me feel good. So it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. But yeah.
Yeah, man, I have a couple thoughts on what we're talking about, but the first thing that came to mind have you, Mike, heard of the term multi-potentialite or polymath?
Whoa!
Do you know either of those terms?
No. But go for it. Okay. I love it.
So multi-potentialite was something that came through a TED Talk, so it's not like a super commonly used term, but polymath is used a little bit more often, and it multi-potentialite actually describes a person that is not meant to do one thing. that they seek out tons of different things to do, and then when they feel like they have achieved that thing or taken it as far as they're able to, then they move on to the next thing, because they have in their mind, okay, that's as far as you can take it, and now I'm going to move on to something new.
I love it.
I get some of that sometimes. I listen to the talk on Multi-Potentialite. I listen to some people on TikTok about polymath, because it's similar but a little bit different. And I do find it myself, like I also sort of reach for many different things, but my problem is that I never get to that point where I feel like I've done it. And so I have this, I fall into sort of a forced consistency on projects because I never feel like I've actually achieved fully what I could do, because I know I could do more. And so I end up just keep pushing, and I tend to stick with things for a really long time because I still see potential in it. And if potential is lost, and it's actually quite rare for me to go, okay, I think I've done all I can do with that. Now I can step away from that. Like filmmaking, I've stepped away from filmmaking because I feel like with my time, money, and skill restraints, I've done all I can with it. But things like game design, it's still there. It's still there, and I still want to do it because I don't feel like I've done. I haven't achieved that certain level where I can't advance any more with it.
Right.
And so it's a little bit different for me. But do you feel that Multi-Potentialite describes you pretty well?
Oh my gosh!
I mean, I know you said ADD, ADHD, but how does that describe you?
That describes me to a T. That's interesting. I definitely have a lot of respect for people that have long-term like stuff or what hobbies or interests or whatever else. I mean, I sit and watch all kinds of people on, which it's crazy, on YouTube. You can't just have a channel that's all about you. You have to have a channel. If you're a fishing channel, you have to have fishing, like all of it. And I've tried that. And then I'm just like, I'm done, guys. I'm done. We've gone to the point, and I'm done talking about that. Anyways, that whatever that definition describes, just in my being, what I am, if that makes sense. I'm kind of stalling because I'm trying to think. I had some questions for you, and I'm trying to think about, so is there...
That's
so
not how
of the
this works,
things,
Mike. We ask you the
okay.
questions.
I apologize.
That's
Let him
not...
ask the question. Let him ask his question.
So going back on you guys, so making films and everything else, is it to the point where you just don't think you can do anything more because you're restrained with certain things, but it's not your brain? Your brain is not restrained, obviously. But if you had all the money in the world and all the equipment in the world and people that showed up and was like, I'll do whatever, and you didn't have to deal with the stress of that, would you be continuing on with it? Like just with your the films?
I'm guessing that question is more aimed at me, though Larry has done films as well.
Yeah, the easy part.
So yes, if there was unlimited resources, if I didn't have to worry about expending resources to the point of being broke, or I could find the right people that were extremely passionate for a film project and knew they really wanted to do it, and it was something I really wanted to do, and resources were no question, then yeah, obviously I know that would be the next step. But until an opportunity presents itself, I have moved on from it because I've capped out my resources, and
right.
And yeah, I could have the mind for putting something together, but everything outside of my mental attitude it wouldn't make any sense for me to continue to pursue it unless I had a singular passion. If I had a singular drive, then I could see how I could try to overcome those things. But because I reach out to so many different things, it's so easy to go, well, that's not really working all that much, but here's this other thing that is working, so I'm going to focus on that instead.
Yeah. Okay.
What about you other guys?
Larry?
I don't know. Honestly, pass. Roddy, you.
Well, no,
Okay,
Larry, just
Larry,
thoughts in
here,
general.
Let me ask you this. Larry, because we're all talking this way, but do you even fall under the same mindset, or do you view things differently? Like,
Oh no, honestly, you can. Yeah, no. Ben knows off firsthand many projects that we've tried to start, attempted to start, thought of starting, talked about starting. It's something I like to do just because it's kind of a spice of life, a variety, a little bit of spice of life. It's fun to taste the knowledge of all these other things that you find interesting, like, oh, chess. I should really get into chess. And you're like, yeah. I mean, I could be like that one person. And then you're like, well, I'm good enough to beat the computer on Medium, so cool, check that off. And then you're like, I love reading, but I'm kind of getting tired of reading because I have to read damn manuals all day, how to do this or that or that. And you just kind of, I don't know, your brain finds new shiny things, but it's a way to, I guess, continue your happiness throughout the day, just to be like, okay, what's the next thing I got coming? Oh yeah, go home, try that. Oh yeah, try it again tomorrow, and then we'll see where we're at. Just constantly moving, revolving door.
okay. Mine's pretty simple. As far as like, I'm kind of like Ben to some extent, except I think we're just in different places. There are projects that I only give up on because of resources, and inability to like do them. And even then, I'm a little bit more ignorant to accepting capability. Like video games is something. It's my next big dream project. And why I say that, like, so throughout my life, I've had little things that I wanted to do, but then I've had big projects. So like starting a convention was a big project I wanted to do. It'll be the 10th year this year that we host the convention. And it's like around year 7, I was like, all right, cool. I did it. Now it's like keeping it going. And really that's more of my staff that are, they're really keeping it going, but I still want to be involved. I still like doing it. But I want to do different things. Years ago, I started making a tabletop war strategy game. At this point, the game is done. COVID kind of interrupted my producing to sell it, like, because I want to take it to conventions, actually sell it. I was going to Kickstarter it, but the Kickstarter failed because of my bad, like, I did not do what I was supposed to make it succeed. So it failed because of me. But the project got finished anyway. I just went ahead and finished it. So another big project. Now my next thing is like, I want to make a video game. I've made a lot of little indie games. I've never made a huge big game. I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to programming enough, but I follow tutorials and figure it out. So for me, when it comes to creating things, I'm of the mindset that I want to create it enough that someone makes it or takes it and consumes it. And then I'm kind of done with it. But I try really hard not to limit myself to my capabilities, but I've also accepted that on some aspects. Like one of my dream things is to have like a summer camp that's like like LARPing meets like real world camping. And it's a whole big dream that I will never actually achieve. I know that, like I've kind of accepted that one as not real. So I scale down
Never
and I try to do things that meet that.
Never accept it.
Well, no, it's like I said, I scale down and I try to do things that kind of meet some of those, and maybe I'll get lucky along the way, but also like I say, accept it. I'm realistic about it. Like everything that I do moves towards that goal in some weird way, or feels that void. Like in my head, if I can make a video game that hundreds of thousands of people are playing, then I still have touched as many people as I wanted to touch with that camp, if not more. So like, I guess I didn't accept defeat. I just moved it. Like I'm like, okay, new goalpost. This one's more, I can make this goalpost. Like kind of actually, Larry, you said the whole chess thing. You're like, oh, I can only beat the computer on medium. So it's like, oh yeah, well, F that. I'm more of the mindset of, I can't beat the computer on medium on chess. Well, I'm playing checkers. like, but I'm gonna beat that computer, kind of thing. I don't know.
I really like this chess analogy because I recently started playing chess again, and my mentality, I am able to beat the computer on like easy approaching medium, kind of halfway through medium, but it takes me a few tries to get it. And I lose to my friend Ben all the time. I lose to David Fork, who Rodney knows. I lose to him a lot. And I just lose constantly. But all that does is drive me to go, I want to learn more about chess, because I'm competitive enough that I'm like, if I can get just one win, even though I lost 20 times to Ben, if I can win one time against him, I'll be like, I did it. I learned something. I know that it is possible to beat this insanely skilled person.
See, so that brings a good point up, though, Ben. That's almost a quest for knowledge. You want to be able to have all that knowledge, so when the time comes where someone says, "Hey, I don't know what to cook spaghetti at. Is it supposed to be boiling water and then I add the noodles? Not add the noodles, and then what? What? I don't help." And you're like, "Yeah, I already know how to do this. I've had previous knowledge. Here you go." I mean, it's making yourself your own hero, and you're kind of celebrating yourself by being like, well, I have the knowledge. And then be like, oh, how many years? And you're like, a couple days, but still, it's there.
Now, so Larry, you touched on the knowledge thing, and this is kind of in our things to talk about, but I think it's addressed it. It's already answered the question, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Do we do these hobbies for financial gain, or do we do them to gain knowledge? Like, is it more about personal gain with the benefit of having a slight financial gain, or vice versa? Like, what is it for each of you? And
sometimes,
Mike, if you want to answer first for yours, because you said you...
sometimes, so I can beat the Rubik's Cube in less than 2 minutes. And there's no financial gain there at all. I just want to be able, if I'm in your office and you have a Rubik's Cube, I can show you that I have knowledge and I'm better than you. If that makes any sense. So, yeah.
See? Until they do it in 6 seconds.
So, but sometimes mine is not necessarily tied with, it's tied with money, not for financial gain, but for acceptance or approval. In my own mind sometimes, because I sold a painting, and I've been painting since Christmas. I mean, so now I'm bragging on myself, but yeah, there you go. I sold a painting, guys. Answered that. Continue. That's mine. I don't know if I even answered the question, but
yeah, congrats on that.
No, you did. So you said basically, you don't only do goals for financial gain. It's more of a personal, internal, like self-fulfillment gain.
Yes.
But sometimes you benefit from it financially, so you get both.
Correct.
This actually relates to another question that I had about hobbies in general, and I want to point this question toward Mike first, but then obviously all of us have hobbies, so I want to pose this question: does every hobby need to be a hustle? Do you have hobbies where you don't try to get anything out of it, or try to gain resources out of it, or does every hobby eventually end up being something where it makes money?
It's.
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
It's kind of what I was just asking.
It's naturally where
it's like the same.
I know you guys. It's naturally where your mind goes a lot of the time. So COVID hits. We're at a place. That's not horrible. We're all masked up, and we're getting something, and there's some
audio,
and there's some puzzles. So we bought a puzzle. I put it together, and I'm like, I miss puzzles, right? How do you make financial gain on puzzles? What you do is, I figured a way. You start a puzzle company. And you get people in China to start making puzzles and sending them over and putting them in the Amazon store. For some reason, my mind's so broken, I can't just sit and put a puzzle together. I've got to actually start a company and sell my own puzzles. So, it's just where your mind goes a lot of the time. If I could figure out a way
I didn't
to
mean for the
hustle,
question to get repetitive. I just
if I could figure out a way to make Rubik's cubes,
made me feel like it was a little bit different.
Yeah, if I could figure out a way to make Rubik's cubes a hustle, I would.
Well, I mean, the thing is you said that you did. So you said, I want to learn Rubik's Cube. So if I'm in your office, I can show you that I have knowledge or I'm better than you.
Right, yeah.
And not necessarily to be like, oh, you're better than, but you want to, the hustle is not a financial hustle. It's a mental hustle.
Yeah.
I want to prove my value. So in that aspect, it's kind of a hustle, but it also depends on how you define hustle. Some people define a hustle as a financial gain. Others define it as a way to achieve a certain goal. And if your goal... Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was going to say, if your goal has an objective, like if you have an objective, a goal, then you are essentially trying to have a hustle to it. So in some ways, yes and no. It depends on how you define hustle. If it has a financial aspect, then no, it doesn't always need it. But if a hustle can extend beyond financial and more into some kind of gain in general, then most hobbies probably, at least for people like you or me, do have a hustle.
So the way I view hustle is that whatever our hobby produces, there can be somebody that is not us that consumes or benefits from what we're producing. And so like... Okay, so my one hobby that is not a hustle, and it's probably the only one, is I play Diablo 3 like all the time. And I don't play it for anybody else's benefit. It's really just for myself. And I like Diablo 3 because in Seasons play, you have very distinct goals to reach. And they are progressive. And if you can reach all the goals, then you get a special cosmetic. And it's not a cosmetic that you could just go out and buy. I mean, I'm sure there's somewhere somebody farms it and then you can get it from them somehow. But it's really just about my own self-fulfillment. And I'm not, I don't stream the game. I don't really talk about the game. I just sit down and play it when I feel like playing it. And it's only for my self-fulfillment. So to me, that's like my one non-hustle hobby. Everything else I do obviously is a hustle. 'Cause
I say that it is a hustle, Ben, because in a way, you're trying to grab a status identifier saying, hey, I already got through blah, blah, blah tier onto this blah, blah, blah set. Here's my cosmetic that if you're in the game and you see this, you know who I am. I'm a big deal. I mean,
yeah, but I don't pull people in just to gloat about it. Like I see the cosmetic, which is usually a pet in Diablo 3. Like if you do all the things,
you're the self-denier, Ben. You're the self-denier.
No,
but
it's not necessarily.
I look at it and I'm like, ooh, that's a shiny. I want that for me. I don't really give a shit what anybody else thinks about whether or not I have it. I just want it. Like a collectible standpoint, like, you know, I'm going to buy that pop figure because it's going to sit on my shelf and I'm never going to tell anybody it's sitting there, but it's for me. You know, it's like that. Like
okay, that brings up a question.
It's similar.
I've got two questions. First of all, do you do your hobbies for other people, to connect with other people? Obviously, I'm trying to do the Rubik's Cube as fast as possible because when I'm around somebody, it's a talk. I love people. I love talking to people. Mm-hmm. I have so many friends and I text every one of them. I'm the person that'll keep in contact with you way after you're like, I'm done. And that's who I am. I've contact with people that I knew when I was 5 years old. I track you down and I'll find you. And there's a lot, and that sounds really creepy, but
yeah,
a lot of people appreciate it. And a lot of the hobbies I do is to hang out with other people and to have fun. I love doing videos and films with you guys because I get to hang out with you and I get to do stuff. And I love putting board games together because I get to show people and get to hang out and play. And that's one question. The next question I have is on your guys' downtime. I don't know when that is, Saturday night, whatever. When you have no work or anything else, do you just sit down and veg, or do you find yourself, I've got to do something productive?
Productive.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think me and you are a lot alike, and I'm going to answer first because I think it'll be quick. I think we're a lot alike. I do things to connect with other people. I do things like I try to even produce things to connect with other people. most of what I do in life is to connect with other people.
I would say my kind of real hobby that I really want to get back into is my sculpting, because I really enjoy just getting there with the nice clay and the brush and kind of visually inspecting / sculpting something in your hands. It's very visceral to be able to have something in your hands that you're molding into something that you want to see in this world. So it's like, I don't know, it's just something that was almost cathartic to just kind of release all the tension and stress of your day through sculpting. And I'm like, yeah, that's something I kind of wish I could get back in, and it only just benefited me, really. But, I mean, it's one of those things that you do well enough and people will notice, and then you're like, oh, well, people might be interested in money if they really wanted this thing. And you're like, yeah. And so it's kind of one of those things where you're just like, you're stuck mentally mindset. You're like, I could go further with this, or I could just, be satisfied with what I've done, move on.
I guess that depends on your individual goal. What do you want to get out of it? Because I think the thing we're all kind of saying is hobbies are for us. But
sorry.
No, go.
I have to stop you on that one. But, I mean, for people like Mike doesn't always have to have a goal. Mike, you said it a few times that, you just did it because it was something that was interesting to you, and, you kind of followed it just to...
Oh, yeah.
Until you got to a point and you were like, something else. So, I mean,
and a lot of times...
I feel like it doesn't always have to be.
Yeah, I mean, going through it, I picked up the bass so I can play with a group of people. And then when they needed a drummer, I'm like, shoot, I'll learn drums. And I learned drums and played drums for a band. And, it focuses down to other people. Just hanging out with other people. But... Yeah. Real quick, before we go on, Larry, in your downtime,
yes.
What can you just chill? Can you just flip on the television and veg?
I feel like I've had to get to that point, like in the kind of society we have right now where you can't go out and hang out with your friends and vent. You can't, go be like, hey man, let's have a beer out back and we'll just talk about nothing and let our day unwind. And so, or you can sit there and be creative. It's just more or less having interaction with another person.
Yes.
It's that kind of mindset that you're kind of having to block yourself off so you can't give yourself that. For me, I've had to learn to just sit there and be like, okay, you know what? Just turn off your brain, because I will get in that cycle of I'm thinking about how I need to do this, why I need to do this, I should do this. And then it knocks over something over here that you thought and reminded of, oh no. And so it just becomes that kind of overburdening anxiety tension in your brain that you're like, so you just have to sit down, find something that you find repetitive or soothing, and you just kind of relax and let it engage with you to kind of draw you out of that funk. Because you can come back the next day and be like, oh shit, I forgot to do that thing I was going to do. Okay, well.
Now, do you do that by yourself? Because even when I watch TV, I have to do it with my wife because it's a shared activity. If I'm watching TV by myself, I'm like, this is pointless. I'm getting nothing out of this. My life is not gaining anything. But
well, I guess in a way, it's sorry.
No, go ahead.
That would be like playing video games. Honestly, okay. It would be like if I was by myself and I wanted to veg out, but have something interactive where I feel like I'm succeeding in something. Boom, video game. And you're like, oh yeah, I like this. This is fun. Concepts.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure Ben answers this question.
That's okay. I was just kind of letting people talk, Yeah. No, Larry, it reminds me of the times we used to get out the fire pit and grab a couple drinks and be like, okay, we're just gonna chill out and stuff. And we're sitting there and we share life, and then just out of nowhere, what we should do. And then it's so hard to turn it off, because if you're hanging out with that other creative person, it's so hard not to go, hey, you know what we should do? You know what we should work on? You know what we should create together? And then it just goes.
It's those libations. It's the ability to drop all the expectations of what you think that conversation would be if you were normally having, okay, we need to think of this, so we're sitting down to discuss this, as compared to sitting down next to somebody and just being like, there's no expectations for the evening. You're just there to enjoy a nice warm fire and in good company. And then all of a sudden, it's just like you said, it just comes rolling out. You're just like, oh, wouldn't that be funny if they had that thing that you're like, the guy jumps out of the back and he's like, rah! And then... my name Jeff, and wouldn't that be hilarious? Oh my god, yes.
Yeah. As far as my answer to the question, I used to force myself to be productive 100% of the time. I always had to be working on something. I never took breaks. The only time that you could even say I took a break is sleeping. And I was working myself to death just on creative projects, just throwing anything at a wall to see what sticks, and working on a million things at once because I felt like I needed to. I felt like I had an obligation to the group of people around me to make a successful project out of this thing that we were working on. For those of you that kind of know, it was the steampunk project. I worked endlessly to try and create everything around that project. And it was after that project sort of fizzled out and people left or moved away, or or some got angry and just wanted to like be done. I learned a lot through that experience, and through that experience I learned that I have to take breaks and that I have to slow down and just appreciate being lazy for a little bit, either for a day or just on an evening. And for me, that usually boils down to either playing a video game, like Mario or Diablo 3 or something like that, or watching TV. I watch TV by myself because there's a lot of shows that that Kristen doesn't want to watch, but I really appreciate. Like I like all genres of TV and movies, but I live with a person that is a little bit more particular on taste and how, what kind of content she wants to consume. And so if I want to see those stories and I want to immerse myself in storytelling, which is a huge thing for me, is I just veg out and just allow myself to get lost in whatever story I'm absorbing at the time. And I've had to force myself and schedule myself to do that. It hits 11 o'clock at night, I'm done. No more productivity. I get like 1 or 2 hours to just be lazy and then go to bed. And then when I wake up, that's when I have to be productive again. And it's helped me a lot as far as like being more productive in the time that I have, and also just allowing me to not burn out so much on the things that I'm trying to work on.
All right, man. Okay, so Mike.
Yes.
We're coming up on time. We want to leave the audience with some final thoughts. Mm-hmm. So, question for you. As an experienced hobbyist who has explored the plethora of universe and hobbies and things to take on, what is one piece of advice you would leave our audience with for picking up a new hobby, taking on a hobby, or progressing throughout?
Oh, man. Do as many things as possible. When I die at 95, I will have done everything. I'm training for a marathon now just because I don't want to die and not have a marathon underneath my belt. That's just life is all about the experiences we have now, and we live in a time and a period where we can do it. 200 years ago, we'd be all picking corn for 12 hours. Have fun, do it. It shouldn't matter. It'd be awesome if we get our hobbies not verified. What's the word? It's on the tip of my tongue. Validated. It'd be great if our hobbies were validated, but just enjoy being with people and having fun. I want to say this. I completely understand, Ben, about the films and stuff like that, but I miss them, not because of what we did or anything like that, just getting to hang out with you guys and doing freaking cool stuff. Having clowns freaking come out of trunks. That was just fun. And it was just fun to hang out with you guys. And, I love hobbies because so find hobbies that hang out with people. And because that's all what life is just making experiences and having fun.
That is awesome. All right, Mike. And one more thing before we go to our break. Is there anything, project, work, piece of art, or thing that you would like to share with our audience that they can find via the virtual space?
Yes.
Or anything like that you want to share with them?
I have a website called yourdndtools.com, and I am creating a website. It's very cool. there's all kinds of Dungeons & Dragons tools out there everywhere. This last year, I have a group I've been playing with for a very long time. This last year, we've had to do everything online. And normally I'm a pen and paper kind of person, but doing online, I found a lot of cool tricks and trades and everything else. All the tools out there are great, but they're all in all these different spots. I've been putting them all in one spot and then adding a bunch of stuff that I've not seen out there. Like, I want you to be able to create in 60 seconds an encounter. You have a group, you just click an encounter, boom, it builds it, and you can switch things out real quick. And you can even give if you have a bunch of orcs, your head orc, you can give them a magic item. It changes their stats, and everything's on the screen. So it'll make being a dungeon master very easy and quick. And check that out. It's your D&D tools, and that's D and the letter N, D, not and or anything like that, just D&D.
Awesome. Hey, Mike, thanks again for joining us on the show. Everyone, listeners, stay in. After this short break, we'll give you our final thoughts. All right, guys, welcome. That was a great conversation with Mike. It was fun just talking about all the good hobbies and all the things that we love to do and why we like to do them. And I think Mike's final thoughts are there. Do things, as many things as possible. And life is about experience is definitely where we want to get that final push. I don't know what I'm saying there.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, Rodney, where you go?
I mean,
bud?
basically,
You're chugging along.
Basically, it's we talked a lot about just what Mike's hobbies are, which run the gamut. Like, I don't think I've ever met anybody that is into saltwater fish, D&D, and man, I don't even remember half the things he said because there was just too many of them that he ran through. Oh, and he paints now?
And we literally had a guest on that's like saltwater fish into D&D and paint. Sorry.
Yeah.
What's your
name? He actually did a follow along on a Bob Ross. He did a Bob Ross style landscape painting, and it was really good. It was really amazing. He live streams his painting sometimes, but so and then I know I brought up the term multi-potentialite, and we were talking about how that classifies a person as far as you want to try all these things, and then when it gets to a point where you feel like you have completed it or you've taken it as far as you can, then you move on to the next thing and just leave that old thing behind. And Mike is very, very, very much that. And some of us had a couple differences. Rodney, you said you were pretty similar to Mike in that regard. And then we were bringing it all together to sort of to let people know what they should do if they have hobbies, if they don't have hobbies, what benefit do they get out of it, and just like you said, Rodney, try everything. It doesn't matter if you're good at it, doesn't matter if you suck at it, it doesn't matter if it can be productive or a hustle or gain some kind of resource out of it. If you gain enjoyment doing it, then you should do it, and you should do it to whatever extent you want to, and we can benefit from that as a life experience. To enjoy life better, we should have hobbies, and I think that's basically what this episode boiled down to.
I'm not going to say a lot after that. I really think that's it. Really, it's about experiencing life. Do as many things as possible. Mike's words.
All right, then. This is literally just the basis of, hey, learn all this cool stuff, because one day you can use that information to beat anyone you deem a foe.
Knowledge is power.
It's about establishing dominance. Establish dominance.
All right. Okay.
So if knowledge is power, how much knowledge do you need before you're like warlock level of powerful?
I feel like you have to have about 5 hobby group kind of crafts that you're in. You're like, oh yeah, I'm with the wood turners of South Sioux, Dakota County, And we also do crocheting on Tuesday. And I'm doing a private basketball group over there. You know those guys that are literally, I'm doing this and this and this and this and this. That's warlock level. The president or CEO, that's the guy who's...
or maybe gaining all this knowledge just makes us more well-rounded individuals?
I think that you have to consider the reasoning behind the quest for knowledge. And that would make more sense.
Ah, yes, intent matters. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to matter and you want to gain more knowledge, listen more on more of our podcasts. You can find us at amusingmindspodcast.com. For all of our socials, if you want to follow us, links are all there. Please like, subscribe, do all that stuff on the social media, and catch us on our next show.